countdown to the May 29 handover has started, and the state of the economy is getting revealed by the day. From multi-billion naira petrol subsidy to privatization in the power sector, salaries, inabilities to pay by some state governments, deficit spending, the 2015 appropriations, and the like. So what is the state of the Nigerian economy, and what choices and decisions lie ahead for the Buhari's administration? Joining me now in the studio is Seun Onigbinde, research analyst and chief executive officer at BudgIT. Seun, good morning. Thanks for coming.
Good morning.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Despite the difficulties with petrol, traffic, and what have you. Okay, so the key question to start with is Nigeria running broke. This question has been out on Twitter and social media, and we've gotten interesting responses from Nigeria. Some say, yes, we're running broke. Others, a few people say, well, we're not yet broke. Perhaps we're just a little bit lean.
Yeah, I think right now, if you say, are we running broke? If it's we're running broke. And it's time for us to critically think about the structure of the Nigerian economy, especially at the federal government level. Because for you to say we are the largest economy in the world, in Africa, for instance, and we are having short-term cash challenges when it comes to, because oil prices just dipped to $60 per barrel, below $60 per barrel. And so it's really one time to also think through, why do we have a $520 billion economy? And whereas uptake of government revenue from that space is just less than 5% of the GDP. You know, there's also a problem seriously around why would 10% of the GDP contribute 80% of government revenues. So the question is the structure of the economy as it is. If we continue in that mode, we will run broke.
A very quick question. So why are we running broke? Yes, the structure of the economy, but where are we losing money? If you're going broke, it's either you're not spending right, your income is low, or you're suffering both, or you have a heavy workforce, for example, if as an organization. It can happen to sovereign entities as well. Why is Nigeria running broke? Corruption?
Okay, so if you look at the expenditure pattern of the federal government, there's a recurrent bill, a compulsory recurrent bill of close to 3.6 trillion naira every year. And so that's from salaries of 1.8 trillion. There's debt services for 1 trillion naira. There's a statutory transfer of close to 300 billion naira. There are pensions, overheads, and other service-wide bills of close to under 600 billion naira. When you put all that out together, you're on almost 3.5 trillion naira. Now, the major thing the major revenue angle to this thing is oil, which is very, very volatile. So we've been running on 110, 120, because even the excess crude account, which was supposed to keep the buffers, which was supposed to keep the excess revenue, has also been spent on a yearly basis as it comes. So clearly, we'll be spending, even at oil price at $110 per barrel. Now price at $60 per barrel, revenue has been shortened seriously. In the last 5 years, we have not made significant or dramatic rise in our non-oil revenue. In fact, recently the custom revenues has been deepened, and there's been no arguments around the fiscal measures we are putting into place around agricultural products and machineries for power has already deepened that. So the question also has always been that the tax regime, we are supposed to have risen astronomically, except the corporate income tax, which has improved a bit, is not even grown dramatically. So the problem is the federal government, by its structure now, there's a big problem because you have a 3.6 trillion naira recurrent bill without even putting a single infrastructure on ground. And that's why it's clear that the Minister of Finance had to admit a few days ago to say 473 billion naira has already been taken this year so far.
The state of the economy and the way we fiscally mismanaged, perhaps not properly handled it, had always been harped on by the central bank over the period of years, talking about merging, aligning monetary and fiscal policies, making sure that things are well aligned so that the executive is not running something, the board is not saying this, and the executive management is running something else, so we have this issue on our hands. Now, we'll talk about the federal. Are we running broke also at the states and municipal, or what we call local governments level as well?
Yeah, at the state level, a lot of states are already broke because if you can't pay your workforce in 5 months, in 4 months, in 3 months, even on time, there's a big challenge with that. And also because the structure which they also run, they have not really been able to raise the IGR seriously, and so most of them have always been dependent on FAC allocation. It will amaze you that last year FAC allocation that was distributed was 435 billion naira. That was less than almost close to 500 billion.
Even over time we were sharing FAC 900 billion, and I remember that just about 2 years ago, a particular month, I will almost say $1 trillion naira was shared. So what happened to that money?
There's some business way of waste along the line, and most of these times are first line charges. If you read the PwC report, which may not be fully accurate until we have another forensic audit where NNPC and its agencies are more cooperative, you would agree basically that the subsidy itself, the operational structure of the oil and gas itself, limits the amount of revenue that should come to the federation pool. So there's a big problem in which when the entities who are supposed to bring in the revenue are also not even optimizing their operations.
So structurally speaking, Nigeria, we are running an economically deficient system.
Yeah, we're running a deficient system.
So the key question, I'm sorry to cut in there very quickly, is that what does the budget 2015 specifically, what does it hide and what does it reveal about the state of the economy?
The budget 2015 I think phase two still optimistic. I think right now even the key challenge of government and even to put down a single infrastructure on the ground, the key challenge is even to meet up the recurrent bill, which is going to come about borrowing. By the Fiscal Responsibility Act, government is not supposed to borrow for recurrent items. It's supposed to borrow for capital development and so for human development, maybe training and things that enhance the growth of society. Now we've breached that by going to borrow for overheads and going to borrow for personnel costs. There's a problem in that space already. So if we're going to go forward now, we need to think through how are we going to keep these rings every time. Subsidy is there as a big pipe drain, where it's still limiting government finance. Are we going to take that off? You know, in terms of our waiver system that we cut short our revenue, are we going to look into that and review that and put more tightness into that? Pioneer status we give into companies, tax allowances we give into most of these companies who are very close to government. Are we going to cut that off and basically to be able to bring more money to drag it? How many Nigerians are already in the tax set? How many are we bringing more into the tax set? But because these are times to ask hard questions, because the new government is coming in General Muhammadu, and there's no magic into it there. Yeah, that's the point.
We'll come to that in about 5 minutes. Let's see if we can round off this. Petrol subsidy. Petrol is very highly inflammable, and anyone who tries to touch subsidy is also playing, quote unquote, with fire. How do you think the new administration should handle this? Because now we're at a very difficult junction. The Jonathan's outgoing administration made somewhat very small provision in the budget. Now the upper and the lower house did not make any provision in the budget that they passed. But they've turned around now and say, hold on a minute, don't remove the subsidy, because the Labour Congress and the TUC, the Trade Union Congress, suddenly says the incoming president should not tamper with subsidy. But the incoming president, the president-elect, decided to keep quiet.
I think let's keep quiet until he is able to look at all the cards on the table and ask all the questions. The reality is the subsidy is a big pipe dream. Not only about because the potential for fraud is also very, very high. The potential for corruption is very high. Up to the system they have currently, which looks a bit more clean than what we were running before. I know in the right now there will still be potential for infractions. And my own quick question is, how long will we keep doing this? The question is, do we just take this thing off and trust that government is going to make the proceeds more transparent and more accountable for the people, and we are going to see the impact of removal of subsidy? I think those are really the key questions that were asked in the last protest. That, you are removing subsidy, but the way government is still structured, it's still in a bloated manner. The overheads of government sometimes are not still justifiable.